Hello and welcome to a brand new video, and in today's video we are going to be talking about why do the Western people want to actually move to Russia. You might be wondering, Ivan, why would they want to move to Russia? Well, I'm not saying to move and work in Russia. I'm talking about working, for example, for a US company and living in Russia, spending their salaries inside of Russia. Still doesn't make sense, but let's get into it. In today's case, we're going to be using examples of Americans and USA to figure out why do people move from different Western countries into Moscow. And that would be a good example. I'm going to be using the information that I Googled, so most of the information is going to be from Google, so if I might be wrong on something, I'm sorry, it's Google's fault. Salary Russia versus USA. Let's talk about the salary in Russia. We will be using the Google's information about this, so let's check it out. Let's talk about the average salary in Russia, and we will compare it to the American salary to see what are the difference and why do people move here? The Russian salary. The average hourly rate in Russia is 600 rubles, which is $7.15 an hour. And the minimum wage is $194 a month. Now, I know for a fact that there's going to be a lot of people screaming, heck no, we are in Russia right now. Nobody earns that money. There's an average salary that you have to listen to. Now, the average salary is actually the median, which is $1,130. This means that half of the Russian population earns less than $1,130, while the other half earns more than $1,130. Hopefully that answered your questions. The USA! The average hourly rate in the United States of America is $34.17, and the minimum wage is $1,218 a month, which is basically way more than the minimal Russian salary. The median salary in the USA is $7,416 a month. The exact same, meaning that 50% of the population is earning less than that and 50% earning more than that. Concluding to that, obviously earning a US salary is way better than earning a Russian salary. So some people actually think from the United States of America that it is a great idea to move to Russia because with their salaries, they're gonna be living like kings. So let's see if it's any true and do a bit of research on that, because I wonder. Imagine if you're an American and you've always wanted to move to Russia and you work online or you have a business and you're thinking of doing something like that. So let's see if it's actually possible and makes any sense. Housing! So there's a website in Russia, it's like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, where you could post different sorts of advertisements on selling clothes, cars, hoovers, vacuum cleaners, whatever the heck, and also not only sell apartments and houses, also give them out for rent on this website. Obviously there are thousands of apartments for rent in Moscow, but we are going to be checking out my favorite side of Moscow, which is the south side of Moscow. I actually think that that is the best area to live, and we're going to be checking out 3 segments that I've picked out, which is going to be the ordinary apartments that you could get, which is like the cheapest one in the south side of Moscow, and then the medium one where you're actually, making a bit of dosh, and then the high class, which is like all fancy, flashy, and cool looking in the center of Moscow. A walk away from the Red Square. Here we are on the website, but I probably should have been using screen recorder, but I was a bit lazy, so here we are recording a screen with a camera. Anyways, this is the Russian website like Craigslist, where you could see there's an apartment. And right here it says 30,000 rubles. This is the cheapest apartment that I have found on the south side of Moscow. It is $340 per month. This apartment right here. You could see it's a ordinary apartment with a hole in the wall a little bit, and looks very rough, to be honest with you. Not a big fan of it. It is 33 square meters, so it's actually a very small one-bedroom apartment without a bed. So I'm guessing that this sofa they kind of unfold and use it as a bed. Very flippin' nice. Obviously, not only that, but actually a realtor is actually giving this apartment for rent. So you also gotta pay the realtor some money. And that amount of money is $204, which means that for the first month, you need to pay $544 for the first month. And then obviously you pay the $340 a month for this tiny apartment. Obviously, for a Russian person, this is very hard to pay because, I mean, the salaries are not that great. So, yeah, $340 is actually quite expensive for an apartment like that. And that is how the whole way looks like. And this is how the outside of the apartment looks like as well. So it doesn't have an elevator. But the plus side of this apartment is that it's on the first floor. So all the rats and stuff like that will go straight inside of your apartment. Obviously, if you're going to be looking at the north side of Moscow, you probably could get a way better looking apartment than this one. But we're looking at the south side because I like the south side a bit better. Now, we also have a middle class apartment, which is actually at $900 price range right here. So it's actually quite expensive, but it is closer to the red square. It's actually quite close. So this is how it looks like. You got a decent looking interior that they built, obviously, for it to look like something to rent out. This is not the interior that a person would probably make for themselves to live. So they kind of use cheap materials to make themselves an apartment like that. This is a one-bedroom apartment with 34.8 square meters. You basically pay $908 a month for it. And you also gotta pay a 50% commission, which says it right here. So the 50% commission is... So with the 50% commission, it ends up costing $1,363 for the first month. But you also gotta pay, and I just noticed it now, you gotta pay like $400 and something dollars. So basically you're paying around nearly $2,000 for this small apartment. God knows for what. The realtors are crazy by taking a commission like that. But yeah, for the first month, you gotta, I don't know, where do you get that much money for the first month? Imagine that. You need to pay $2,000 nearly upfront for an apartment like this. I actually didn't think it's gonna be that expensive, but basically there's the commission, then there's the deposit, then there's the price. Very, very expensive and crazy. This is basically one of the apartments that I want to show you, but there's also a second in the same segment that I wanted to show you. It is a bit further away from the Moscow city, but at the same time, it's double the size. It's 60 square meters, 2-bedroom apartment. Look at that red looking kitchen. Very flippin' nice. So this is how it looks like. It's still in a good area. It's way more spacious, so you could actually breathe inside of the apartment. And it doesn't look that bad. Some people might like this interior choices. I'm not a big fan of it. So basically, this is the same price, which is $908. $908 plus a 50% commission, which ends up costing $1,353. But at the same time, I just noticed this now. On top right here, you could see that the commission is 40,000 rubles, which is around like, I don't know, $420, $450, something around that, which is completely just, this boggles my mind. I don't know if I would have wanted to rent out an apartment in Moscow. This would be just unbearable expensive. Now, I was about to show you something fancy, and I'm still going to show you something very fancy and expensive at a $5,100 price range, basically in the city center of Moscow. It looks very fancy. There's even a video of the place. This is how it looks like. Wow, I would live in an apartment like that. I like the style. Looks very good, you know. 2 sinks, a bathroom, a shower, a bathtub, everything that you need. A walk-in closet, a nice area. Even has armed guards in it and stuff like that. internet, everything, 122 square meters. You just got to pay a deposit of $5,100 as well that you will get back after 1 day after you've actually stopped renting it and stuff like that if you didn't damage anything. Flippin' crazy though, right? And a lot of people are thinking that the prices in the States for rent are crazy. Look at Moscow. Groceries! From my experience from living in Russia, in Moscow in particular, you need around $350, $400 a month to get yourself groceries. Now, at the same time, there's going to be a lot of people saying, Ivan, that is actually a lot of money. You don't need that much to spend on groceries. But the big problem is that you could either get very low quality, God knows, questionable made foods that is going to harm your body, or you could get yourself some quality food. And I'm not even saying the highest quality. I'm talking about medium quality where you could get yourself some meat, potatoes, onions, you know, all the good stuff to cook yourself some good meals throughout the month. Also, in that price, I usually include, like, you know, toilet paper, housing detergents, you know, to clean up the kitchen, clean up the bathroom and stuff like that. Obviously, you could live for like $100 or $200 a month, but you know, it's not going to be the best food. It's going to be very processed, very bad food, which is obviously going to harm your body. I mean, we have shops where they have like the red price where everything is extremely cheap, but even if you get the extremely cheap hot dogs, for example, and you put them on fire, they melt like plastic. So God knows what that is made from. So, you know, it is actually quite expensive to live in Russia as a Russian. Well, obviously it's cheaper than the expenditure on groceries than in the United States. Now, this information I got from Google, which is around $700 to $800 a month on groceries. Obviously, it is way more expensive in the US, but if you consider the amount of money that Russians earn, that is very expensive. So, if you earn a lot of money in the States or another country, you come to Russia, you're going to be like, wow, that's actually a very good price. But other people in Russia are not going to think that way because they're literally earning pennies. And it is very hard to get yourself a good paying job unless you're a IT specialist, a doctor. I would say a doctor, but if you're a doctor in just a normal government clinic, you're not going to earn a lot of money. You only have to be like an amazing plastic surgeon to make money and stuff like that, or a very good dentist in a super expensive private clinic. So, that is about the groceries. Transportation. Most people in Moscow use the subway system because it is very cheap. For 61 cents, you could actually get around all Moscow, so you only have to pay once to get into one side of the subway station, and then you could ride around Moscow as much as you want. But when you exit the actual subway station, then you gotta pay again. So you could literally get from the south side of Moscow to north, east, west, whatever the heck you want for 61 cents, which is actually very good. The taxi in Moscow is actually around $5 to $17, depending on where you are and where you wanna go in Moscow. So it's actually not that expensive. There's a lot of taxi drivers, a lot of taxis. So for $5 to $17, you could literally go around all Moscow. But obviously when there's like more traffic and stuff like that, taxi rates do go up. Now, I could probably figure that taxi rates in Moscow are way cheaper than, for example, New York in the States. So for the price of the taxi that you could get in the States, for example, you could get yourself a S-Class Mercedes to drive you around the city. Because in our taxi, we actually have like, you know, I don't know, you guys have Uber Black. We have kind of like Uber Black where you have like S-Class Mercedes, BMW 7 Series, Audi 8 Series, and stuff like that. Restaurants! Yum, 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 yum. Now, as you all know, I'm a big food and restaurant expert, so now this topic I could literally talk about forever, but we have to compile it into a little story for you guys to find out. In a middle-class restaurant, and when I say middle-class, I'm just saying like an ordinary restaurant where you could find all over the place, you could get yourself a good dish for $5, and in general, for that $5, you're going to be quite full. If you spend $10 in a place like that, you're gonna have like 2 dishes and a drink or something like that, and you're gonna be completely obliterated with food. Now, if you're looking at some exquisite dining experience with some amazing food, you can go to a Michelin star restaurant around Moscow. And it is actually not that expensive as you might think. Dollar-wise, if you have a US salary or a European salary, whatever, you will have dishes starting from around $9 to $10, and that would be like a pasta with shrimp or crab, but that's like Michelin star type of restaurant. Obviously, you're gonna have dishes that are more expensive, like steaks, which start around like 30 to up to, I would say, $80, $90, but that's gonna be one of the best steaks you probably ever had. It's actually very good. So, you know, for the amount of money you spend in a Michelin star restaurant, I'm pretty sure that's how much you spend in an ordinary American restaurant. So that is also one of the big reasons why a lot of people might be coming over to Russia. And that's why there's a lot of people that are actually living in Russia from the US, working, for example, for a US company online and living in Moscow, because now they can go to Michelin star restaurants for 15 bucks. Now, considering the $5 meal that you could get yourself in a Russian restaurant, I'm pretty sure it's very hard to get yourself a McDonald's meal in the US for that price as well. So, yeah, flippin' heck, you know, actually sounds very good, but if you earn money outside of Russia. The conclusion! Now, to conclude all of this story, it does make a lot of sense. If a person earns money in the US or any other country and the salary there is way higher than in Russia, it makes a lot of sense to move to Russia, because obviously the quality of your life is going to be way better, because there's actually way more things that you can get, way more restaurants you could visit, better apartments that you could rent out. So your quality of life is going to be way better, because by living in a country where salaries are very low, coming with your big salary, everything for you is very, very cheap. That is why there's a lot of people that work in the US and they travel and live, for example, in Thailand or Philippines, Russia, Eastern Europe, a lot of Eastern European countries. They have a lot of US citizen, a lot of like English people, because they work online, they earn their money, or they have a business in that country, and they spend that money in a country where the salaries are very low. So everything seems very cheap to them, and they're like the big boss of the place. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, Ivan, so why do a lot of people come to Moscow, where they could literally fly over to Thailand, work from the beach, drink coconut, have the devil's lettuce or something like that? Well, the reason is that Moscow is a big megapolis, and there's actually a lot of things that you might need, want, and it will offer you more than you need, because it has any necessity that you need. It has all the restaurants, all the cinemas, all the cars, all the housing, every single product that you might want to get, and the infrastructure is very good. So a lot of people actually end up coming here because they're living in a big city where there's nice places and everything they might need or ever want. Now, in my case, I want to be doing the other way around, because I'm a Russian and I don't want to be earning the Russian salaries and, you know, working in this country, to be honest with you, because it is very hard to do anything. And, you know, considering that I'm more business-minded, I don't think that there's anything worthwhile doing in Russia right now, because to open up a business, you need to invest. The interest rates are absolutely humongous, so it doesn't make any sense opening anything up with the interest rates. So in my case, I would want to move to the US, actually work there, earn the salary, and spend it back into the country by opening a business, spending money in a US McDonald's, and stuff like that. Obviously, one day I hope that I will be able to travel to the US, work there, and build my dreams over there. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, because if you subscribe, that actually gives me a higher chance of moving to the States, because they have creative visas, for example. So basically, if you have enough subscribers, you're actually able to get yourself a visa and fly over there and create content. What could be better? Tell me. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. I love every single one of you. Hopefully you guys now understand why there are some people that are moving to Russia from the United States of America, for example, because they just want to spend their money in a country with lower salaries and feel way better. See you later, guys.